Is up, Buffalo Fanatics? Z-Bot here with you, live on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel on the very last Monday of 2025. And I wish it was a victory Monday that we were sharing on this final Monday of the year. But alas, the Bills fall 1 point short to deprive us of one last victory Monday here in the calendar year. Bills fall to the Philadelphia Eagles 13-12 on Saturday or Sunday afternoon. We'll talk about some Saturday games coming up in a little bit. On Sunday afternoon, to fall to 11-5 and to officially lose the AFC East title for the first time in the last half decade. Now, we know the ability for the Bills to have been able to achieve a sixth consecutive AFC East title was slim, but it was a chance nonetheless. That chance, of course, officially comes to an end with the Bills finding a way to lose to a Philadelphia Eagles team who was non-existent offensively for basically more than half the game. The problem is the Bills were non-existent for far more than the Eagles were on offense throughout that football game. A lot to talk about. I rewatched it. A tough watch, by the way. Just a really tough watch from not just the fan perspective of either team, but if you're an NFL fan in general. I mean, you're looking at that game going into it. That's the marquee game of Sunday. It was the America's game of the week. Tom Brady's first time back as a broadcaster. And you had two teams that you look at and you could make an argument that they could meet each other again in Santa Clara in February. I wouldn't put my money on either of those teams right now. I don't think Philadelphia has shown that they have the capabilities of going back-to-back, at least to me. You watch that offense, and I just don't see how they're going to outpace teams like Seattle, especially with their defense. Their defense is ridiculous. The Rams, their offense is just through the roof right now, the way they're scoring. Did you watch Sunday Night Football? Did you watch Chicago and San Francisco, those two offenses? I just don't think Philly's the class of the NFC anymore. I think we're watching other teams surpass them, most notably LA. I know Philly beat LA earlier in the year. It's a long season. I just don't think those two teams are comparable right now. I think LA and Seattle are the two best teams in the NFL. And then Chicago on any given week right now can play as good as any team. You saw that on Sunday night. And no one's talking about San Francisco into the capacity in which they should be. Yes, San Fran's had a good year. They win next week. They are the 1 seed. The Super Bowl goes through Santa Clara all the way up until a Super Bowl in which will be played in Levi Stadium, home of the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners could have a path to where they play every game at home, including the Super Bowl. And I feel like they're not being talked about as if they're one of those teams. They have had an easier schedule than the other teams in that division, Seattle and LA, but they still had to play those two teams twice, including next week for the division. Winner of LA, Seattle wins the NFC West, wins the 1 seed. That's going to be an incredible game. That's next Saturday. You have two division deciding games this upcoming weekend on Saturday, 4:30 Eastern, Carolina, Tampa Bay. That's just the battle of the misfit toys, really. One team's got to win the division. You know the rules. You get one of the top 4 seeds if you do. And despite Tampa Bay being 1-7 in their last 8, they win on Saturday. They win the division. They're in the playoffs. Carolina obviously bouncing back in a major way from a disastrous season last year. But then 8 p.m. Saturday, that game's for the 1 seed in the NFC, which is going to be extraordinary. And then speaking of play-in games, speaking of playoff games in Week 18, Sunday Night Football for the AFC 4 seed for the AFC North, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. And this would have been the matchup we Bills fans would have had our eyes on keenly this upcoming weekend had Buffalo beaten Philadelphia on Sunday, because the Bills in all likelihood would have been the 5 seed, would have played the winner of that game. I would have been a lot more upset. And I'm upset. I can't lie. This game really bugged me, and we'll talk about it, obviously. This game really bugged me. I've been able to not allow it to affect me as much as maybe I usually would because the Bills had already clinched and because they're going to have to play tough teams regardless here. Whether that be Jacksonville, whether that be Baltimore, Houston, whoever you filled in there. I would have been way more upset about this game, however, if Pittsburgh had beaten Cleveland on Sunday afternoon. That would have ended the AFC North title race. Pittsburgh would have clinched. They would have been the 4th seed. And had the Bills beaten Philadelphia, then taken care of the Jets, unless the craziness happened there in which the Bills could have won the East in the 1 seed. I mean, if it happens, it'll happen. Like I said this on the post game. It'll happen now, or it has a better chance to happen now because the Bills lost by a point. But if you had a gun to my head, or if I had to bet on it, do I think that Philadelphia, or do I think that New England was losing to Miami this upcoming weekend? Quinn Ewers playing quarterback. Do I think that Denver would also go on to lose to pave this path for the Bills to get the 1 seed? I don't. I did not foresee that. So I would have had the Bills penned in at the 5 seed there and had Pittsburgh have won against Cleveland, which they should have. The AFC North is always like this, though. You can never etch in stone who you think's going to win any of these divisional games in that division in particular. It's always just disgusting, low-scoring, roughneck football, and you can never count out a team like Cleveland to beat a team like Pittsburgh. Historically, Cleveland's never been better than Pittsburgh in my entire lifetime, yet that game goes either way yearly. That's just the way it goes. But if you're Pittsburgh, I mean, you got to be sick to your stomach losing that game, because now you got to go and sweep Baltimore in order to get into the playoffs. You had a chance to beat a Cleveland team with a rookie quarterback who scored 10 points. I mean, you couldn't even get into the double digits here. And that's a massive missed opportunity. The reason I would have been more upset here, and I think you know where I'm going with this, the reason I would have been more upset about the loss to Philadelphia had Pittsburgh had beaten Cleveland is because if Pittsburgh gets in, if they beat Baltimore, and I just don't think they do this upcoming weekend, but once again, like I just said, it's the AFC North. It wouldn't shock me. Pittsburgh, if they get in, they will undeniably be the worst team in the playoffs, especially in the AFC. The Bills took a half off against Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago and still destroyed them when it was all said and done. The Bills didn't do anything the first half. They came out in the second half and just completely dominated Pittsburgh. And when we combine what we know Josh Allen does in the postseason and what they're capable of doing with him in the postseason, having never lost in the wild card beyond his first appearance, which of course came against a Houston Texans team that at the time just felt like they were more mature and just at a different spot than the Bills were. We know what they'd go on to do post that. But that was Josh Allen's first appearance, and it still went to overtime. They've been dominant in the wild card round with Josh Allen at the helm. And, if they were to have gotten the chance to take on Pittsburgh, that's a game that I would come on here and say I would be stunned beyond belief if the Bills lost to Pittsburgh. Now I sit here and the way it looks, if the Bills end up as the 7 and they got to take on New England, if they wind up as the 6 and they got to take on Jacksonville. I mean, I can't sit here with any overwhelming confidence and tell you that I think the Bills are going into either of those two games and dominating the way that they have in the wild card round in recent years here. I would have felt that way against Pittsburgh. And it's not so much to do, I would say, with how good the Bills are. I think it's got more to do with my lack of trust in Pittsburgh. So my resentment over this win or loss here, it would have been far higher had the Bills lost like they did and then Pittsburgh had won. But as it stands right now, that's what you're looking at, essentially. You are looking at the Bills either getting the 7 seed and taking on New England for a third time, or taking on Denver if something weird happens there. That's your scenario. Then you're also looking at the Bills potentially getting the 6th seed. That would be taking on Jacksonville. Everyone looks at the Jacksonville Jaguars and they say, historically, that's just not a team that's been threatening. That's not a team that anybody really respects, right? They're an afterthought. The Jags franchise in general feels like they've always been an afterthought. They were a late addition to the league, right? They didn't become a team until far late into the existence of the NFL. And I think that's the price they've paid as a result. They don't get the respect other teams do. That's a team that deserves respect right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're clicking. They have a solid receiving core that only got better when they added Jacoby Myers at the trade deadline. And that's just been such a bad look, in my opinion, on Bean. You could have had Jacoby Myers, and you didn't. And Jacoby Myers has been a staple of the Jags offense ever since they acquired him at the trade deadline. So much so, in fact, they've already extended him. They gave him a multi-year contract, Jacoby Myers, before the season even ended. This is a guy that the Jags acquired at the trade deadline that was linked to Buffalo. And who did Buffalo wind up with? Nobody. You wind up with Brandon Cooks. You wind up with Gabe Davis, right? And now you're watching Jacoby Myers on a team that already has Brian Thomas Jr., right? Travis Etienne, he's been a top 7 or 8 fantasy football running back all year. Statistically, he's been extremely potent for Jacksonville. And when Trevor Lawrence is playing well, that's a team that can beat anybody. It's a lethal team. Now, he's susceptible to having bad outings, much like any other quarterback is. It feels like Trevor Lawrence's bad outings are really bad. But when he's playing well, when he's clicking, that's a scary team. And their defense is good enough to where you can't expect to just go in there and roll them with your offense alone. You can't expect to walk in there and put up 45 and outpace them. I feel like they have a good enough defense to where they're a well-rounded team as I look at them right now. No one's talking about it. And I had somebody, I tweeted this out, and I had somebody say, well, isn't that what your platform's for? Why don't you talk about them? And I said, you know what, you're damn right. I should. I think right now, going into the postseason, I mean, who's playing hotter football than Jacksonville and Houston? But the Jags are a team no one's talking about. I hear people buzzing about Houston's D. Obviously, everyone's talking about New England and what they've done this year under Mike Vrabel. And Drake May could very easily win the MVP now. I think on Sunday against the Jets, he had the best quarterback rating since 2006. And if Matt Stafford goes out on Monday Night Football tonight and has a pedestrian game against Atlanta, Drake May, in all likelihood, is going to be your MVP. Obviously, they're getting a ton of buzz. Other than the Bills debacle, they would be on what? A 12-13 game win streak now? And then Denver is just refusing to lose. Denver's defense, lights out. I don't trust the offense, but much like Jacksonville, when they're on, they're on. Like if Bo Nix comes out and he's feeling it, like they can be lethal. The thing of it is just that it's an awfully parabolic chart. I think offensively, I would trust Jacksonville more than I would Denver, but obviously Denver has a far better defense. But you're looking at the landscape of these AFC playoffs right now, and you guys can tell me in the chat. I mean, obviously, we all got our opinions here. All of these teams are looking solid to me. This is why outside of Pittsburgh, I look at whoever the Bills draw, and to me, I don't think that there's an advantage over another team. Like, it just is what it is. It just is what it is at this point. I got people trying to tell me that the Bills are superior to Jacksonville and to Houston and to New England and to Denver. I've said it all year long, and the point still remains, and I still believe this. The Bills can beat any of these teams in the playoffs. They can beat any of these teams in the playoffs, no question about it. It wouldn't stun me at all if the Bills draw New England in round 1 and beat them, or they draw Jacksonville in round 1 and beat them. It wouldn't stun me, but is equal to that not stunning me. What's the best way to put this? As much as that would not stun me, them beating those teams, it would not stun me, them losing to those teams. It's split down the middle. So this argument that the Bills are just superior to these teams, the only argument you have is Josh Allen is superior to their quarterback. And this is where things are getting lost for a lot of people here. Josh Allen is superior to all of the other quarterbacks in the AFC playoff race. All of them. The Bills team, however, is not. And this is, I said this before it even got into the mainstream. When I was talking about Josh Allen getting back into the MVP race, because I remember we talked about this. I said, don't be shocked if Josh Allen goes out and balls out against New England and Drake May loses to Josh Allen head-to-head. Don't be shocked when Josh Allen rockets back into the MVP conversation. And with that, obviously was going to come the conversation of, well, if Josh Allen's playing at this level and Mahomes is out of the playoffs and Joe Burrow's out of the playoffs and Lamar Jackson's out of the playoffs, this has got to be Josh Allen's year. Now, there's part of me that looks at it and says, is this the most optimal path the Bills have had to a Super Bowl? And you guys know my thoughts on that. Nothing's changed. Of course it is. You don't have the best dynasty of our generation here. You don't have the best quarterbacks of our generation here outside of Allen. But you don't have the best version of these Buffalo Bills. You have a Bills team that is a few plays away right now from being in the exact same spot that Cincinnati and Baltimore and Kansas City are in. If you don't have Christian Benford make the play of the year on that pick six, if you don't eliminate a 21-point comeback, if you continue to lay an egg against Pittsburgh in the second half like you did in the first half, if you continue to lay an egg like you did against Cleveland, like all these games were so marginal. And I know it's if. But the thing of it is that the ifs kind of came back to haunt the Bills on Sunday, did they not? And this has been my concern. I had a comment on the post game. Somebody said, Bot, you sound awfully similar after a loss that as you have in wins as of late. And I thought it was a good point because I feel like I have, because it feels like this has been in the making here. When you are reliant on going down 21 points and coming back to win, when you are reliant on needing a pick six grabbed out of thin air right from Joe Burrow's hands into Christian Benford's to go the distance and then needing to pick him off again on his very next attempt, when you are reliant on not doing anything in the first half against Pittsburgh and having Joey Bosa come out and get a strip sack that allows Benford to pick it up and go into the end zone, when you are reliant on week in and week out needing something crazy or something borderline historic to happen, eventually the chickens are going to come home to roost. You ask a Kansas City fan right now, ask a Chiefs fan. Last year, every single one-score game, it was clockwork. They couldn't lose. They just couldn't lose. It's like a gambling man at the roulette table who just keeps hammering black, and you get to the point where you think it's just never going to be red. You've seen it before. You go to the casino and they have the screen that shows you all the recent numbers and all the recent colors that have landed on the roulette wheel. And you're human like I am. You'll walk by it and you see that it's hit black 15 times in a row. And you're like, well, let me get on this. Let me jump up into the table and throw a couple bucks down on black. And then all of a sudden, here comes the red streak, right? And that's what happened to Kansas City this year. Last year, if one-score games were black, they had their money on it every time, and they were just stacking chips all the way up till the Super Bowl. This year, though, the Chiefs won one-score game, lost all the rest, and were eliminated from the postseason before mid-December. I'm looking at the Bills here, and you're getting these just ungodly wins. Week 1 against Baltimore, erasing a 21-point deficit against Pittsburgh. You're down by multiple scores late in the fourth quarter against Cincinnati. You have no offense to speak of against Pittsburgh. You're trailing at halftime. All of these games, I mean, the Bills more often than not this year have been winning games in ways that you're sitting here and you're wondering if you're going to need to go see a heart doctor. I've told you this. And once again, yesterday was no exception. The difference, however, is it came back to bite them. And this is what I've been fearing throughout this time here. The reason why I sound similar perhaps after a loss in compared to a win is because all these games have been the same. It's just that the Bills have been finding ways to win them, and in this game, they didn't. Is it the end of the world? No, the Bills are still in the postseason. But here's what I don't want to get lost, and here's where my mind's at. What we saw against Philadelphia is what I fear will happen in the postseason, because we have seen far too often the Bills play with fire. I mean, they've been putting their hand over the stove all season long. And yesterday, they left their hand over that stove a little too long and got burnt. And I'm afraid that we get into the postseason and you're not going to have the opportunity to get burnt and put some ice on it and get ready for next week. You're going to get burnt, and that's it. You're done. The hand is incinerated. You're done. It's over. Cancun, the season comes to a close. That's why that game, to me, honestly, that's what's got me the sickest here. It's not actually the loss to Philadelphia itself. It's what that loss to me represents, because it is a microcosm of what the Bills have been really all year long. And you're going into the postseason, and what evidence do you have that the Bills are going to be playing in a game, or they're going to be playing in games that are anything but what we just saw? All the evidence you have is telling you that the Buffalo Bills are going to be playing in games like that every week they advance, should they advance beyond the wild card. And you're really treading a really thin, dangerous line, needing to win like that 3 consecutive games on the road to get to a Super Bowl, much less win it. You're going to have to win in heart attack fashion 3 consecutive times on the road. And this is what's, unfortunate here, is that the Bills haven't been good on the road. They haven't. That's where the bulk of their losses have come, not just this year. Obviously, last year, they didn't even lose at home last year. Now you got 2 losses at home this year, both one-score games, both against playoff teams, both in heartbreaking fashion. Now you got to take the show on the road, and they're all going to be against teams, frankly, better than Philadelphia. I mean, I think New England's better than Philadelphia. I think Denver's better than Philadelphia. I think Jacksonville right now, if not better, at least on par. That Philadelphia offense, folks, they had 17 yards of offense in the second half. I saw a stat on Twitter. I forget who said it, so I'm sorry to not give credit here, but I remember the stat because it was so jarring. There have been 10 games this year in which a team has thrown for less than 20 yards in a half, and the Eagles have 3 of them. 3 of them. And you're watching that game against a playoff team at home, and it wasn't like the Bills already knew their fate. Did we realistically think the Bills were going to get the 1 seed and win the AFC East? No. But the chance was still there. So you're still playing for something. You don't know how it's going to go. This has been the most insane NFL year maybe of my life. So you don't know. The Bills are still playing for something. That's what makes it even worse, is that you're still fighting for something. You could almost give it a pass if they knew they were locked into the 6 or 7 seed. They knew it. It was a foregone conclusion. There was no chance of winning the East, no chance of getting the 1 seed. Maybe you take your foot off the gas a little bit. They had their foot firmly placed on the gas. Josh Allen gets hurt, back into the x-ray room yet again. And I'm really concerned about that. I'm awfully concerned about his foot. This is 2 weeks in a row. He's not moving the same. The escapability clearly is not what it was prior to this injury. I think it's obvious. I thought it was obvious before he got stepped on again in this game. I'm more looking at the bigger picture here. I'm not looking at that loss to Philadelphia in a vacuum. I'm not looking at it as a one-off game, because those days, it's over, folks. We are 3 days away from January. This idea of they'll get it in gear, they'll fix it. It is January. It's over. You're not fixing anything. You're not evolving beyond what you are right now. The only way the Bills are going on a magical run here is if they find a way to rattle off, like I just said, 3 consecutive victories in the fashion in which they've done multiple times this year. And this is where I got to give them credit. And I have to sit here and say that they got just as much of a chance as anybody because they have done it. They've pulled off some of the most miraculous victories of the entire season. And they are surely the team that has done it the most in 2025. The issue is, as fans, you are reliant on that. That's what it's going to be. Do I foresee the Bills going out and just destroying whoever they play in the wild card round like they did last year? I mean, they beat the hell out of Denver last year. Are you anticipating, regardless of who they draw, that's what it's going to look like? And if you are, I'd love to hear your explanation behind it. The only way you could see that happening is if the other team just completely messes their pants. If they go out and play the way that they played all year that led them to that opportunity, I just don't see it. Because the Bills have gone toe-to-toe. It really doesn't matter. Really, the Bills have played their worst games of the year against teams that are inferior to them, in my opinion. Atlanta, Cleveland, Pittsburgh in the first half. I don't think they're inferior to Philly. I really don't. But they were when it mattered in that game. I mean, they were inferior in the moments that were the biggest, and that's really what it all came down to. They have the capability, but my faith in them having the ability to rattle off victories like this week in and week out, and you guys can let me know how you're feeling. I'm not sitting here. I've had a tough time trying to figure out how I want to put this. I guess the best way I can put it is kind of how I said it earlier. I would not be stunned if the Bills lose in the wild card. Far from stunned. I would not be stunned if the Bills win in the wild card. Whereas last year, I would tell you I would be stunned if the Bills lose in the wild card at home against a rookie quarterback. You know, now top tired saying, "Bot, we all feel the same." This is the thing. You might think we all feel the same, but I'm telling you, Top, not everyone's feeling this way. People are saying, the defense was phenomenal. It was just an off game. But how long is the leash? How many off games in a season can you have before you just are identified as such? The Bills are an off team that somehow, some way, on any given week can find a way to kick back in gear and go down a straight path to a W. But when you're on this jagged path nonstop and you can't find a way to get it back in gear, you're going to have the games like Houston and Atlanta and Philadelphia and the Patriots game the first time around. And those are the ones that scare me. Now let's talk about what happened in this game and ultimately what I think this means moving forward. We've said this all year long, and it continues to prove itself. If James Cook cannot get going at an offensive player of the year type level in any given game, the Bills lose. If James Cook is held beneath 100 all-purpose yards, the Buffalo Bills lose. If you have a defense good enough to take away James Cook's impact on the game, more than likely you are going to beat Buffalo. And that is exactly what Philadelphia did. To the point in which Philadelphia did not score a single point in the second half. They scored one touchdown that came off a horrendous Josh Allen fumble that set them up already in Buffalo territory. They had 17 total yards of offense in the second half. Jalen Hurts had below a 50% completion percentage for just a tad above 100 yards. Saquon Barkley had 68 yards on 19 carries. All of that resulted in a win. Why? Because the Philadelphia defense completely dictated the football game. They shut down Buffalo entirely for 3 quarters at home. 3 scoreless quarters with the MVP at quarterback and the offensive player of the year candidate at running back. It cannot happen. Nobody, win percentage wise over the last half decade, nobody's been better in the NFL at home than the Buffalo Bills. And you got your defense holding the opponent to 13 total points. You got the MVP at quarterback. You got the rushing title at running back. And you put up 3 scoreless quarters? And a lot of this had to do with Philadelphia's ability to just take away James Cook's impact on the football game. James Cook had 74 yards on 20 carries, sub 4 yards per. You look at when the Bills are thriving the most throughout any given game this season, go look at James Cook's numbers, and it'll be reflective of how well their offense did. Go back and look at the games in which they lost. You go to the Texans game, it's the only game where James Cook had a solid outing, and they still lost, and that's because Josh Allen had 2 interceptions. So the outing in which James Cook had in the football game was overshadowed by the fact that they wound up losing the turnover battle. Right? You just can't do that. They also fumbled in that football game as well. They had 3 total turnovers. But if you go and look at other games in which the Bills underperformed or lost the game, you go back to the Patriots game, and in looking at that one, Josh Allen was the leading rusher for the Bills in that game. James Cook had 49 yards on 15 carries on the Sunday night outing in Week 5 in which the Bills lost to the New England Patriots, against the Miami Dolphins, where the Bills got the doors blown off of them. 13 points, lost by 17. James Cook had 53 yards on the ground, right? So you're looking at this offense, and as much as it goes through Josh Allen, it really goes through James Cook. The Atlanta Falcons game, James Cook, 87 yards on the ground, sub 100. The only game in which they went above that above that moniker, above that level, and still lost, was against the Houston Texans, and that's because they forced 3 turnovers. The alarming thing here, the alarming thing about this Bills offense this year in their losses, you go back last year, and the Bills offense is rattling off 30 points per game every single week. And when they lose, you go back to the Rams game, for instance, it's an all-time shootout. Came down to whoever had the ball last, the Bills lose. They put up, over 40 points in that game. Here are the points scored in Bills losses this year. 20 points, 14 points, 13 points, 19 points, 12 points. In every single one of the Bills losses this year, they failed to exceed 20 points. And in 4 of those losses, they were sub 20 points. There wasn't even 4 games last year where the Bills came close to scoring sub 20 points. Now, I got people that'll tell me, well, yeah, but they had 40 against Carolina, and they had 44 against Tampa Bay, and they had 39 against Cincinnati, right? 35 against New England. Yes, but for all of those positives, for all of the good, there is a significant sample size to come in and kind of bring you back to earth a bit. And this is why I'm nervous for the postseason, because you have such a sizable chunk of games. Everybody has an outing or 2 in which they lay an egg. The Bills have laid 5 eggs this year. The only loss to me that I look at and I say, it was a great game, and they made more plays. They really did. They made some clutch plays, and they won the game outright. It was the Week 5 New England Sunday night game. You go back and watch that game, and there were some massive plays made by Drake May and massive plays made by Stephon Diggs in that football game. But, you're looking at the Miami loss. They just didn't get off the bus. The Texans lost, absolutely no answer for that pass rush whatsoever. Get sacked 8 times, turn the ball over 3 times. You look at the Atlanta game, same exact template as the Houston game. No offense to speak of in the first half, turning the ball over, and incapable of putting a point on the board. 14 points. So when they're losing, it's really coming down to the offense's inability to put much together. Because you're looking at the score, And in the New England loss week,
Buffalo Fanatics, what's going on? This is Pierre the Kingpin, and I wanted to talk to you today about Cigars International, which is the ultimate destination for premium homemade cigars. Known as the industry leader, Cigars International offers the largest selection, unbeatable prices, and a customer service experience that's second to none. Whether you're new to cigars or a seasoned vet, Cigars International makes enjoying cigars easy, approachable, and fun. Cigars International is the go-to retailer for all things cigars, with the biggest selection of premium homemade cigars available anywhere. Cigars International offers unbeatable deals and discounts, making it easy to stock up on your favorite or try something new without breaking the bank. With fast free shipping and their 100% satisfaction guarantee, you can shop with confidence knowing that Cigars International stands behind every order. They have good relationship with vendors that helps provide great low prices. Whether you're new to cigars or a seasoned pro, Cigars International makes it easy to find the right cigar with helpful guides, staff reviews, and expert advice. It's not just about cigars. Cigars International also offers a wide range of accessories and more to elevate your smoking experience. Check out the great deals every day at cigarsinternational.com. That's cigars, CIGARS, international.com. Use code FANATICS at checkout for 20% off your order of $50 or more, plus free shipping. Or visit www.cigarsinternational.com/fanatics, and the discount will automatically apply. Again, use code FANATICS at checkout for 20% off your order of $50 or more, plus free shipping. Or visit www.cigarsinternational.com/fanatics, and the discount will automatically apply.
5, Bills lose, Patriots score 23 points. Falcons loss, Bills lose, Falcons score 24 points. Texans loss, Bills lose, Texans score 23 points. Eagles loss, Bills lose, Eagles score 13 points. I get every now and then you're going to lose a game where the defense steps up at some point in the game and holds the team to sub 24, right? How many of these games here? And for a team that we look at and almost unanimously blame the defense time and time again for these losses, the defense in almost all of these games outside of the Miami game, they stepped up in the second half and stepped up when they needed to. They stepped up against Atlanta. Remember, Bijan Robinson and Drake London went nuclear in the first half. They completely eliminated their impact in the second half, held them to 24 total points. Houston had, 20 points at half against the Bills? The Bills defense shuts down Houston's offense in the second half, holds them to 3 points. They still lose. 23 total points scored. The Eagles have 13 points at half. The Bills defense completely shuts them down in the second half, barely allows them to gain a yard, obviously doesn't allow them to gain a point, score a point. Bills lose. What's crazy is that the Bills defense in the second half has been more reliable than the Bills offense has been. And as we know, you are going to need to have Josh Allen playing at an MVP caliber each and every one of these playoff games for them to even have a chance. Because when you have a game like the Eagles game where, let's just be frank, I mean, the impact Josh Allen had on that loss was seismic. And in fact, it might be broader than anyone else's impact on that loss against Philadelphia. Josh Allen had the biggest, if we're talking about mistakes committed, and obviously Badgley's missed extra point is a massive mistake committed. And he's no longer a Buffalo Bill, by the way. If you didn't know, if you didn't see earlier this afternoon, Badgley cut from the team. Badgley cut from the Bills practice squad. He will not kick again for Buffalo. 2 weeks in a row where he misses an extra point. This game, this time around, it cost him potentially the football game. Now, you can't keep your job like that when you're on the the ropes as it is. Outside of that, you go back and watch. Once again, if you are holding an opponent to 13 total points, you play 100 games. How many times are you winning the game if you hold the opponent to 13 total points? 98, 97, 99? I mean, that was just a 1 in 100 type loss. And if we're looking at the impact here, I got a defense that allows 1 touchdown the entire football game. When did that touchdown occur? Off of a Josh Allen fumble where it's 2nd and 2. It is 2nd and 2. The Bills are already in field goal range. Dude, throw it away. You are in the whipping rain, whipping wind. By the way, have you seen the weather today in Buffalo? I mean, we're talking like hazardous wind. It wasn't as bad yesterday, but just to give you an example of like how bad the weather was. You had whipping wind and it rained that entire football game. There needs to be a cognitive effort to be a bit smarter in moments like that. It's what we love the most about Josh Allen, and it's what we thought we had eradicated as well. What we love the most about Josh Allen is his ability to make plays nobody else can. But as we know, what has come with that throughout the years is also making mistakes that no QB at his level should be making. We know this to be true. And we've often said we'll take the good with the bad. Unfortunately, in this game, there was just far more bad. The good that came in this game were a couple of deep bombs where the catches were just unbelievable. I'll give credit to Allen for making the throw and getting it there. But, I mean, the catch made by Cooks, the catch made by Tyrell Shavers, this football game to me, once again, I like to use the pie chart analogy. And if we're cutting up the, who's taking home the bulk share of responsibility for this loss, it's 17 to me against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the excuse can't always be, well, he wins all these other games. He's the only reason they're in these games. I get that. But you got to think critically. You got to think critically. For as much as Josh Allen wins Bills football games each and every week, I'm not an idiot. The Bills right now without Josh Allen are 4-12. I get that. But we also have to be able to be critical thinkers and say, despite all that, with all that said, I can watch a game like the Philadelphia game and come to the conclusion that Josh really cost him in that one. It's just a reality. Both things can be true. Josh Allen can be the world's best football player. And Josh Allen could be the single most reason as to why the Bills are even remotely close to being in playoff contention, much less having 11 wins and having a chance to go the distance each and every year. Two sides to the coin. Not often, but a game like that Philadelphia game shows you that if Josh Allen's going to put this team in a tough spot, they're not going to win. And when you have your defense holding the opponent to 13 total points, and when you have your defense completely eliminating the offensive impact of Philadelphia, yards and a half, you're at home and you had the opportunities. This is the thing. It's not like it came down to a couple of bad drops where you could look at it and say, well, what are you going to do? The Bills have one of the poorer wide receiver cores in the NFL. Or it came down to a James Cook fumble, and you're going to say, what are you going to do? Josh Allen can't control that. I'm looking at multiple plays in this football game that really cost Buffalo. It's 2nd and 2. The fumble in and of itself was the biggest blown moment of the game because it's the only time that Philadelphia scored a touchdown. And the Bills were going to likely get points there. Now, you can't guarantee the Bills were going to get points because you got Badgley at kicker, and you can't lock in that weather any certainty that he was going to nail the field goal. But you would have had a chance at points nonetheless. You were already deep into field goal range, approaching the red zone, and it was 2nd and 2. That's the thing. It wasn't like it was 3rd and 7 and Josh Allen's trying to make a play. It wasn't like it was 4th and a couple and Josh Allen's trying to make a play. It was 2nd and 2. You throw the ball away, you still got 2 more downs to get 2 yards and keep that drive going. And in brutal weather, Allen's, he's skating along the sideline and he's going to make the play when it's already just dead, fumbles the football, gets kicked all the way back. That was the difference in the football game. I know it happened in the first quarter. There was no bigger impactful play than that single play. And it comes down to Josh Allen in moments where it's just, you gotta just throw it away. Right? But you get it. Mistakes happen. But there was just a few more throughout the game that compounded that error. I look at the drive late in the third quarter. The Bills have yet to score a point. They finally get in scoring territory off that incredible catch from Tyrell Shavers. Unbelievable. The Bills are set up pretty. What are they on, the 4-yard line? Now, right off the bat on that drive, what killed me is they were trying to get rid of, they were running up to the line because they were worried maybe it was going to get overturned. I don't think it was. It was a catch. So they waste their first down play. People forget this. They waste their first down play. Allen snaps it and immediately whips a slant to Gabe Davis, who drops it. One thing I've noticed about Allen that I don't know how someone hasn't said anything to him about this. It happened earlier in the game, too, where it's 3rd and short in really bad weather. The Bills, what do you know? Once again, they run a bubble screen to Khalil Shakir. Have you seen that before? They just debuted it on Sunday. It's the first time they ran it all year. I thought it was extraordinary. Have you seen it? The bubble screen to Shakir? I don't know why they've been keeping that under their vest all year long. It's an incredible play that just I cannot believe took them this long to debut. And they run it on 3rd and 1. And I already hate the call to begin with. I hate that call so much, I can't even begin to. There's nothing I can sit here and tell you that will adequately describe the hatred I have for that play. There is simply no words. I can't sit here and there's nothing I will say that will do it justice. How much I hate that play. There is simply nothing that can be said. They run it again. You got the offensive player of you have the rushing title winner in the backfield. You have a human giant under center that you've ran the tush push with multiple times. Yet 3rd and 1, you run this screen. And here's the thing. As much as I hate the play call, and I genuinely hate the play call, it was there. But in the monsoon of a weather predicament they were in, Allen takes the snap, and you'll know what I'm talking about here. He throws the screen off his back foot. I've often equated this to skipping a rock off a pond. He takes the snap, and it's off his back foot, it's sidearm, and it's 400 miles an hour. Whereas I'm looking at this play, and as much as I hate the screen, it was wide open, and if Shakir catches it, it's a first down. And this is where you got to factor in the elements. Like when Josh Allen goes to tuck that ball down and try to make a play in the rain and fumbles, you got to factor in how slippery that ball is and how wet the field is and how you can't be making plays like that in conditions like this. You go to this Shakir play on 3rd and 1 where the Bills once again had to punt. You can't throw that ball 150 miles an hour when you're playing in essentially an Olympic pool. And if he would have just snapped, routine throw, snap, dump, it's a first down. And he did it again with that Gabe Davis play where they ran up to the line and it was just like they had to get a playoff. If you have to get a playoff, then hand the ball off to James Cook. What are we doing running this slant route where you whip it 400 miles an hour and he's already blanket covered? And you remember it bounced off his chest. It's a great way to get a tip pick. So they already burned that first down on that series. But then they get to 3rd down. They run the ball with James Cook on 2nd down. They get to 3rd down, and this is the play where Josh Allen scrambles to the right, and he pump fakes like 4 times, and he gets everybody jumped up in the air. Because obviously everyone respects the legs of Josh Allen so much that they're constantly waiting for him to run. So they're just maneuvering, they're jumping up and down, they're getting their hands up in the air. Have you guys seen Brandon Cooks on that play? This is where, like, Josh, you don't have to make the most incredible highlight reel running play. Not every play has to be the best play you've ever made. And if you go back and watch that play, he's got multiple Eagle defenders up in the air. Brandon Cooks, and people thought, by the way, that Allen was already beyond the line of scrimmage and couldn't make the play. No, he was at least 1.5 yards, 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And you got Brandon Cooks wide open on the right side. You just dump that off, and that's a touchdown, right? Then you had multiple sacks, and you go back and look, and like the one where Josh Allen runs 20 yards in the backfield, they're already in field goal range there. And Josh Allen literally runs 20 yards in the backfield and gets sacked. They had no points up until that point. So, I'm looking at the 2nd and 2 play in which he fumbles. They're already in scoring territory, no points. That one that I just mentioned to you, that sack, they were already in scoring territory. He runs 20 yards in the back, no points because of the sack. Missing Brandon Cooks wide open on that toss. That would have been a touchdown, no points. And then, of course, the 2-point conversion, where I literally lost sleep over it last night. Because for as bad as they played in this game, it all came down to one moment, and the moment was there. It couldn't have been more there. You couldn't have had a better opportunity to win the football game. And for some reason, I don't know what, it wasn't the pressure, it wasn't the coverage, it was a flat-out miss. It was a flat-out miss, and a pretty egregious miss at that. This to me, and I don't know how you guys feel, but this to me is the problem. Zeba, you and many Bills fans don't deserve a player like Josh Allen. And I just think that that's an absolutely absurd statement. I think it's an absurd statement. When I have a fair criticism of one of the best players we've ever seen in a game in which he made multiple mistakes that cost the football team, and you point these mistakes out, for some reason that means you don't deserve the guy. Even though 95% of the time I'm on here singing the praises of this guy like I'm on here singing like I'm Stevie Wonder. The thing of it is that when you do make a criticism, all of a sudden you are the bad guy. And this is the problem. And this is why there's a lot of people out there who can't stand Bills fans, because they have no objectivity whatsoever. Everybody looks at Bills fans and they immediately look, they're thinking of a portion of the fan base that will refuse to put any blame on anybody. They refuse to put any blame on the quarterback. Absolutely none. And this is the most perfect example of all time. The amount of people that I've seen put the loss here on Sean McDermott for going for 2. I mean, it is the absolute perfect example of what I'm talking about here. How can you blame McDermott there? How? You got Josh Allen. He's already banged up. He got his foot stepped on. He was moving, clearly was moving, in a way that was not 100%. So you're factoring that if you're Sean McDermott. Do we want to go play yet another quarter of football here, right? You're also looking at it and thinking that you've been pretty, like you're looking at it and you're thinking the weather is brutal. If we take this to overtime, we're going to have to play yet another quarter in which we're going to have to go down and score on offense again. And other than late in the fourth quarter, we haven't had much offense to speak of. The counter argument to that is that Philadelphia didn't do anything offensively either. I get that. But you had the play there. This is the thing. If you wanted to criticize Sean McDermott, if they go for 2 and nothing's open and Allen just has to pop it up in the air and pray to God somebody catches it, right? Or they have to just, I don't know, if Allen gets sacked or whatever, then maybe you're sitting here saying, oh, fire McDermott, fire McDermott. How can you sit here and criticize McDermott when the play was wide open and all it would take is a little dump like this to Shakir, and we're talking about a victory today? I mean, I get it. And the other thing is, too, here, do you not think that Sean McDermott is factoring in that they have a guy kicking the game-tying field goal or the game-tying extra point that they just cut this afternoon? Everybody's just assuming Badgley makes that extra point. Everybody's just assuming that Badgley, who already missed one in this game and missed one a week prior in awful weather conditions, everyone's assuming he goes out there and hits that and ties the game and the Bills go to overtime. What happens if he goes out there and clanks that off the upright or it gets blocked again? Then all you would have heard is, how do you not go for 2 there if you're McDermott? You got Josh Allen, you got James Cook, the weather's terrible. How do you not go for 2 there? You knew the kicker stunk. He already missed one earlier in the game. He missed one last week. The weather's terrible. You can't win. You can't win. You don't think McDermott, do you think if Matt Prater was healthy, they go for 2 there? I bet you it's a completely different consideration. The guy got cut this afternoon. Everybody and their mother is just completely locking in this alternate reality that exists where Badgley bangs that extra point through the upright. They kicked 1 earlier in the game, and they missed it. He didn't miss it, Z-Bot. It was blocked. Did you see how low the kick was? Many kicks that are blocked have a lot to do with how the ball is kicked. You don't see many Brandon Aubrey kicks blocked. Dagma saying, Bot, would you have gone for 2 in the playoffs? It's a great question. Maybe. Probably. And it's because of the reasons I'm talking about here. I think that they had such a lack of confidence in the kicking situation that they're thinking, what would I rather go with in a must-win situation? Would I rather go with the MVP at quarterback getting a play into the end zone that wins it? Or would I rather trot out a kicker that's missed 2 in the last 2 weeks in terrible weather who we're going to cut tomorrow? And this is what I think needs to be considered when we're talking about this play. Those are the 2 choices you are met with. I go with the MVP. I go with the guy who's led us on 2 scoring drives, and I try to get it in here. Or I go with the kicker that missed one last week, that missed his only other attempt in this game. The weather's terrible. The wind's whipping. The rain is pouring, and I got to rely on his leg to take this one to overtime. Or I can just try and win it here. And I think that was the mindset. Now, to answer that question in a hypothetically in a different scenario, I think if Matt Prater is healthy, then I think I'm probably singing a different tune here. And once again, I would almost entertain, like, even with all that said, the weather, the kicker, the fact that you probably didn't want to go and play another quarter of football with Josh Allen's foot. The guy, do people realize Josh Allen limped into the x-ray room after this game? I know they were negative, but do you understand that after the conclusion of this game, Josh Allen limped into the x-ray room yet again? Do you think they wanted to go play yet another quarter of football? Because at the end of the day, they did already clinch the playoff spot. And if McDermott's sitting there, he's probably sitting there thinking, like, if I go and play, I mean, I want you to just think about this. If they go play another quarter of football and the Bills win, and that extra quarter of football required Josh Allen to make a move or 2 that aggravated that foot even further, and all of a sudden he's out for the playoffs, what do you think people are saying? Why didn't McDermott go for 2 before going to overtime? He knew Josh Allen was hurt. Why would he take that game to overtime? It's all of these ifs, ands, buts. I thought he made the right call. McDermott does not deserve the crap he's getting right now. The play was there. And once again, like I just said, I could overlook everything I'm saying here. the weather, Allen's injury, the kicker. I could overlook all of it and understand the arguments here if Allen got sacked or he threw it into triple coverage and got picked or whatever. The play was wide open. That is as easy of a 2-point conversion opportunity as you will ever have in the history of the league. And he missed it. And it's okay to admit it. You don't need to sit here and do a song and dance. You don't need to sit here and do these mental gymnastics to make it so that you don't put blame on Allen in this situation. People are they're doing 180s. They're doing mental 180s in their mind to flip this one on McDermott or to flip this one on whoever. Josh Allen missed the throw, point blank. And it's fine to say that. And if Mahomes had done that, or if Lamar had done that, or if Burrow had done that, every single Bills fan would be on Twitter clowning him for it. But because it's Allen who misses it, no, it's McDermott's fault as to why they didn't win. And I think that that's ridiculous. And then you got comments like, we don't deserve Josh Allen. And this is the problem. This is where it occurred. This is the root of it. The root of it. When the Bills do well, it's all Josh Allen, even though James Cook's going to win not win offensive player of the year. Sorry. He's going to win the rushing title. But it's all Josh Allen. But then when the Bills lose and Josh Allen has multiple massive mistakes in this game, you're not even allowed to say it. And if you do say it, that means you don't like the guy. You don't appreciate the guy. You're not forever in debt to the guy for saving the franchise. The inability to critically think is a bad look on this fan base at times. And it's not everybody. It's not everybody. Believe me. There are plenty of people that are able to objectively look at this stuff and say, yes, Josh Allen, one of the greatest players I've ever seen, the greatest player in franchise history, the only reason the Buffalo Bills are even remotely competitive, the only reason they are now on their way to 7 consecutive playoff appearances, the only reason X, Y, and Z. You can also say, with all that in mind, Josh Allen really lended a big hand in costing the Buffalo Bills a victory over the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 17 of the 2025 season. And the other thing, too, that kills me about this whole thing, if you were to ask Josh Allen point blank, what are your thoughts on the impact you had on this loss? What do you think his response would be? Did you not see the guy after the game? That was as dejected as I've seen that guy maybe ever. Whips his helmet off, grabs his helmet off of his head as he walks off, and he's he's visibly screaming. What's with all the mental gymnastics for the guy who would tell you to your face he should have hit that pass? I don't understand how you can watch that play and then immediately come to the conclusion that it's Sean McDermott's fault for going for it. Couple of super chats before we close up shop. By the way, I will not be done this afternoon. 4:15, I will be over on the Bills Roundtable with Kevin Massari and my main man, Dan Mitchell. That's going to kick off in a little under 10 minutes. So if you want to just head over there when we're done here, that would be awesome. Newbie driver stepping in, saying defense can make stops. Bills never out of a game. I expect the Bills to make the AFC title game. I can't sit here and say I expect it, but like I keep mentioning, I wouldn't be shocked by it. You're right. This Bills defense is not getting enough credit. What really makes me upset about the Bills defense is far too routinely. You just saw it against the Cleveland Browns offense that might be the worst in the league. There's this feeling out period where they just let teams kind of do whatever they want in the first quarter, all the way sometimes into the second quarter. Then once they have this feel out process and once they kind of get an idea of how they want to respond to it, they become what could be the best defense in the sport in the second half. I don't think you're going to have the luxury of doing that in the postseason. You cannot spot teams upwards to 21 points like they did New England and expect to come back and win like they did in that game. It's a really dangerous line that you're treading. But this Bills team, once they get it in gear, there are a few better defenses right now, which is just crazy. The Bills offense also has to reciprocate. Like, you can't have the Bills defense adjust and have absolutely zero adjustments from the Bills offense, because you're going to wind up having games like you just had. Money, Mitch, the lead, Robster, Bot. Much love to you and your family, as to you, Money Mitch. Hope you had an incredible holiday. Hope you all had an incredible holiday, by the way. Can't believe it always comes and goes as fast. It always goes as fast as it comes around, it feels like. But it was a great one. Zoe's first Christmas, which was amazing. Got to spend time with my family, who I don't see as much as I used to, of course, having moved. And this was the first time that so many of them got to meet Zoe, which was amazing. So we had a great holiday here, and I hope you guys all did too, including you, Money Mitch, who goes on to say, next time you're up in the Rock, we got to meet up. I think this team has given me a reason to trust them in the playoffs. But there are bigger things than football, too. Much love, brother. They've given you a reason to trust them? I mean, look, you can make an argument that they've given you a reason to trust them, and you could also make an argument that they've given you every reason not to trust them. This is where we're at, and this is where I'm at mentally. I am pretty much down the line, 50-50 here. I have as much trust in them as I don't, if that makes sense. They've given you reasons to believe they can come back from 21 points. They've given you reasons to believe they can completely switch the style of play in the second half. They've given you reasons to believe that if they go into the halftime getting their ass kicked in the first half, they can win the game. They've given you reasons. They've also given you reasons to believe that this offense is going to fail to score 20 points. They've given you reasons to believe that they can turn it over numerous times. They've given you reasons to believe they're not going to be able to put points on the board throughout the duration of a football game and end up losing as a result. They've given you reason to believe that at any given Sunday, a running back could run for 150 to 200 yards on him. I mean, there's all of these things on both sides. What's going to show up in the postseason? The answer, we don't know. I don't even think they know. We just hope to God we wind up getting somewhat lucky, and it winds up being the Bills team that finds a way to come back from 21. The Bills team that finds a way to make that unbelievable defensive play to flip the game. The Josh Allen that is the best player in the sport. The James Cook that is the running title leader, right? We're 2 weeks away from finding out. Money Mitch adds, by the way, our wind in the Buffalo suburbs, 70 miles an hour. I've seen some videos, unbelievable. Anybody out in Buffalo, I hope you're safe today. Hope you're hunkered down at home watching me. Come watch the Bills Roundtable over on that channel. Just hang out today. I've seen some videos of that wind, especially lakeside. Just don't go out in that. And I hope everybody's doing well, because that's crazy, man. That's Buffalo weather in a nutshell. Crazy, the wind whipping up in Buffalo right now. Richie Fresh saying, here's the plus. Eagles had far from a good game, and last night's shootout on Sunday Night Football. The Super Bowl is truly up for grabs, and that's what's frustrating about this. That's what will hurt the most. Because I think the Bills have as much of a chance as anybody, but every other fan base is thinking the same, and that's what'll hurt the most for not just us fans, but for any of these fans, any fan base. Everyone's going to look at this and say, this was our year. Everybody. This was our year. It's not just Bills fans that are going to be saying that. Everybody's going to be saying that. That's what's going to hurt the most for every team that winds up falling short of winning the title. Luzu. The Bills are ass. Start coping. I'll start coping in a couple weeks. I'm not coping yet until the playoffs have come and gone and the Bills are officially done. Then I'll start coping. But I see the writing on the wall a bit. I can't lie. I mean, there are plenty of reasons to go into this postseason gearing up for a cope sesh. I'm just hoping I'm wrong. Every year I hope I'm wrong. I hope we don't get an outcome in which we got against Philadelphia. I think we all are hoping that. Money Mitch additionally adding that I trust this team, says Mitch, because of the past playoff appearances. Not this regular season. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Now, I feel like you're going to light me up for that comment. No, well, I'm glad you added that because I was a little bit confused. But I think you did take me down a path there where I'm understanding of people that do trust this team because of what they saw this year, because they've pulled off some miraculous things this year. They have. But as I mentioned, they've also done some things that really has you losing trust. You're right. The one thing that we don't know yet this year is what we can look like, or what this team can look like with postseason Josh Allen, who has been statistically one of the best in the business. Now, I just think it's different. All these wild card games that they've won have been at home. The only one they lost was in Houston. It's not as good of a wide receiver core as we know. It's just not as good of a team collectively as we know. Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe we still get primo playoff Josh Allen And all of this is a moot point. Like I said, we'll find out in a couple of weeks. Newbie driver, we already talked about that one, the defense. And if the defense can play the way that they have been in second halves, moving forward into the postseason, they're going to have a shot no matter what. Richie closing us out by saying, not trying to be mean, but you think there's something mentally going wrong with Allen? He's in year 8 and missing players like Cooks on his own island. I think, I don't think so. I think Allen's banged up right now. And I'm not speaking for him. Maybe there is. I don't know. But I can't sit here and speak for him. I have no idea. I've also seen Josh Allen play some incredible football games this year, right? So I can't sit here and say that there's something wrong with him from my perspective. I've also seen him play incredible games this year. The Eagles game was not one of them. But the Patriots game, the unbelievable comeback, the Chiefs game, like we know what he's capable of, and he's still done it this year. So I can't sit here and speak for him. I don't know, nor do I want to speak for him. I just don't know. But I do know he's banged up right now. I do know he's playing with one of, if not the worst wide receiver core in the NFL. I do know all these things are true. And I do know that the weight of the organization, the weight of the world is on the guy's shoulders every week. And it can't be easy. It can't be easy. This team only goes as far as he goes. Most teams are like that with their quarterback, but none are like it to the extent in which the Buffalo Bills are. And that can't be easy. And it's unfortunate because he can't afford to have a bad game. He can't afford to have a mediocre game. Because when you have a mediocre to poor game like he did against Philadelphia, 99 out of 100 times they're going to lose. Before we sign out, I want to give a shout out to my friends over at Sleeper. With the season coming to a close, playoffs around the corner, you're going to want to get in on the action before the action comes to a close. Do so with the link in the description below. Click that and sign up for a Sleeper account. And once you do, you will immediately get a free $20 entry. You can use that on Monday Night Football tonight. You can use that in the Week 18 games, the playoffs, NHL, NBA, you name it. It's all on Sleeper. Once you use your free $20 entry, use the promo code on your screen, BF25, and that will get you a 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper terms of use for details. Currently available in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper via the link in the description below. Check out the Bills Roundtable right now. That's going to do it for the smoke break here on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel. I am heading on over to the Bills Roundtable with Kevin Massari and Dan Mitchell right now. Come check us out over there. But in the meantime, much love. Thanks for tuning in here. And go Bills.